Disclaimer. Some of our content varies per video and may not be suitable for younger audiences. Viewer discretion is advised. Also, in some content, we are critical of the video games, books, music, videos, and other creators on the platform. While we are a group-owned channel, our opinions expressed are solely on our own and may not always reflect the opinions of those associated with this channel. We at Novakast do not condone any and all harassment, IG, cyberbullying, doxing, swatting towards any of the people that we may be critical towards. Good gosh, oh golly. How's it going, everybody? Rob here, back with another video, and we are back. And good gosh, gee willikers, we are yeah, so we got called out again, apparently, from one of the and by the way, I don't think they like the fact that I call them radicals. I don't think they do, because they had this individual who I've done 2 videos on so far. As far as I know, they decided to respond. By the way, I haven't heard from them in a while. You know, maybe to an extent, them trying to, defame individuals would, probably scare them away for a little bit. But apparently, no. They had a few things to say with 3 of the videos that I've made responses to, or at least in terms of videos that I've created, and as well as content. So we're going to look at some of their comments and respond accordingly. Because at this point, it'd be... so let's be honest here. I would want to put my energy in just making a video showcasing some of this behavior, then actually, I'm also, by the way, rebuttaling, then, just going through the comments every 5 fucking minutes to, address their beliefs. So, anyways. Let's go ahead and do this. It's funny you think that dog realists are radicals. So firstly, let's talk about this. So this was on the episode 1 of the audio podcast that I've posted on YouTube, which, guys, please check it out. I don't talk about just about dogs in that, but other things. But overall, this has been a point that I've made numerous times in these videos, is that in terms of the people that are afraid of dogs, you can break them down into two groups. You have certain individuals that recognize their phobias, understand their phobias, and in a sense live amongst them, or to an extent acknowledge their existence, and overall try their best to just live their lives. Then you have the radicals who try to force ideas and just try to manipulate the situation, so to speak. A lot of times using, fear-mongering to try to get people or force people to be on their side. Or in some cases, using slurs to try to denounce or dehumanize individuals. It has been a variety of different things that these people have tried to do in order to get their point across or to, in a sense, spew their rhetoric. Now, before we begin, I should point out that I recognize the various issues with dogs in terms of dog attacks, stray dogs, so to speak, in terms of certain areas of the world and their populations. I understand, the situation with rabies, and, individuals that are hyper-focused on their dogs in terms of taking them to the grocery store, this and that. I recognize those issues. I personally believe that they should be done or dealt with in a case-by-case basis. Not in a situation where individuals, or at least it needs to be addressed in the whole, not as, by case by case. I think ultimately, again, case by case, not lumping everyone together and just, assuming all of them are bad because you had that one person act like a dipshit. I think that's ultimately what we shouldn't be doing. But these individuals, again, want to act that way. So I was kind of curious about this. So I did a quick, just, quick summary of like, or at least let's say Google search, so to speak, what it means to be a realist. And it's actually interesting. Being a realist means accepting the world and situations as they are, focusing on practical solutions and avoiding unrealistic hopes or expectations. In essence, a realist is someone who is grounded in reality, not swayed by optimism or pessimism. So let's break that down for a second. Somebody who accepts the world as it is, and, by the way, the situations as they are, focusing on practical issues. A lot of these people who, are claiming right now, like this individual claiming to be a realist, is under the impression that, at least her and her ilk, had put in their minds that the solution to deal with the dog problem is to get rid of all of them. You remove them from human society, which, by the way, in a sense, is unrealistic hope and expectation. So, overall, as it stated in that thing too, realists are grounded in reality. And, you know what? I think in terms of like reading that, I think it's safe to say that this individual has no idea what a realist actually is. And overall, by the way, towards the end, I will go over what it means to be a radical. So, goody there. Now, by the way, if you want, we can also go look at some other information in terms of this topic, just to break it down a little bit. Number 1, acceptance of reality. Realists acknowledge the true nature of a situation and don't try to ignore or change it. They see the world as it is, not as they wish it to be. Something, again, that some of these people who claim to be realists aren't actually doing. Number 2, practical approaches. Realists focus on finding practical solutions and strategies, rather than relying on wishful thinking or idealistic approaches. They are concerned with what is achievable and effective. So, in terms of currently, right now, where you have these individuals that claim that we need to get rid of all dogs, that's not realistic. Focus on the actual problems. If anything, focus, again, because I keep saying it, and some of these people don't want to listen, but it's the truth. If there is an issue, focus on the bad actors. Focus on the individuals, case by case, on what they're doing. Bring those people to everyone's attention. Not treat everyone in the community as the problem. Number 3, avoiding unrealistic expectations. Realists are less prone to being disappointed because they have grounded expectations. They don't set themselves up for failure by expecting outcomes that are highly unlikely. I think that's a perfect example of what some of these people are expecting in the world in terms of what they want in terms of the dog community. Next is grounded mindset. Realists are often seen as having a balanced and objective perspective, avoiding extremes of optimism and pessimism. That doesn't, I'm just going to say that right here, that doesn't, considering how pessimistic the dog-free radicals are, let's be real here. They don't, they can't be counted as realist. But continuing, they are able to see the good and bad aspects of a situation without getting overly attached on or to one side. Again, does not, according to this, according to some research, some of these people who are on the side of the dog hating community, the dog-free radicals, they cannot classify themselves as a realist, and neither can this individual. So, looking at some of the information, overall, again, this individual, claiming to be a realist, can't exactly, claim themselves to be a realist when in reality, a lot of the things that I just described doesn't fit their purview of behaviors. So, yeah, you can't call yourself a realist in this situation. But anyways, that's one of the arguments that we're going to bring up. Let's go ahead and look at something else that this person wanted to comment, because again, it gets interesting as we progress. There is a connection between pet ownership and cancer. It's easy to look up. It's old news, but the multi-billion-dollar pet industry don't want to spread that info. That would make them lose money. So this was in connection to me responding to War on Dogs' take on dogs causing brain damage and cancer, which, if I remember correctly, I did say that there was some studies that say, but ultimately it was inconclusive in terms of like the studies of whether or not cancer was caused by, dogs. But anyways, let's just out of curiosity, again, Google search, looking at, connection between pet ownership and cancer. Is it true? Some studies suggest a potential link between pet ownership and an increased risk of certain cancers, particularly lung cancer in women, with cat and bird ownership being associated with higher risks. So, not dogs. There's no mention of dogs in this. However, research findings have been mixed, with some studies finding no significant association between pet ownership and overall cancer risk. Some studies have even suggested that pet ownership may be associated with a lower risk of developing certain cancers, like non-Hodgkin lymphoma. In fact, if you want, we can break that down even further. Let's talk about mixed findings. Research on the connection between pet ownership and cancer has yielded inconsistent results. Some studies indicate a higher risk of lung cancer in women who own cats or birds, while others find no significant association. Some studies suggest a link between pet ownership and an increased risk of lung cancer, lymphoma, breast cancer, or leukemia. Some studies suggest that the association between pet ownership and cancer may be more pronounced in women than in men. In fact, if we were to talk about the potential mechanisms of this situation, the exact mechanisms behind any potential association between pet ownership and cancer are not fully understood. Some researchers speculate that exposure to pet dander or certain environmental factors associated with pet ownership could play a role. Now, let's talk about the other studies. A large 2016 study found no relationship between pet owning and cancer in women, according to Psychology Today. Several studies have also reported that pet owners were less likely than non-owners to develop non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, as reported by Psychology Today. Here's a screenshot of said article. Here's a screenshot or zoom in of the article's title itself, which reads, "The strange link between pet ownership and cancer in women. Why should owning cats and birds be linked to cancer in women but not in men?" By the way, I want to remind people that, again, in terms of the things, no mention of dogs, whatsoever. I literally put, and by the way, again, literally Google searched, pet ownership connection with dogs, or no, pet ownership and cancer. Nothing came up so far with dogs. And if one of these people want to refute what I said and have an article, please share it. I would love to hear. I would love to read that. Like, honestly, truly. But overall, there needs to be further research. More research, reading this, more research is needed to clarify the relationship between pet ownership and cancer, and to identify the potential mechanisms involved. So overall, even if there is the possibility, I'm going to say this, even if there's the possibility that a person could get cancer from, dog dander or something like that, currently, at this time, research is inconclusive. It's not fully understood whether or not it does, even though some studies show it, some studies show it does not. But overall, more research needs to be done. It is completely inconclusive. And at this point, looking at articles again, like the one from Psychology Today, the main focus, or at least the main theory in terms of cancer or ownership by cancer, whatever, is from cats and birds. Anyway, moving on to the next comment, because again, this just keeps getting interesting as we progress. All right, this was on the obsession of the dog free radicals, where I've, in a sense, have kind of correlated, or at least, in a sense, made the point that you have a few of these people that are very obsessed with this particular topic. And this person made a 2-paragraph response, which reads, you are not a doctor, Mr. Muffin Man. By the way, I find it funny that they want to call me Muffin Man. Clearly, I've gotten under their skin because they don't like the fact that I'm talking about this topic. Also, I've never, ever suggested that I was a doctor. So just I find it funny that that's the first thing they want to say. But anyways, but still, you know so much about this topic. Kinda, because I own an animal and I've done my research. How do you escape dogs and dog culture if you want nothing to do with them? Live your life. I think that's plainly simple. Just live your life. How do you escape from having your sleep disturbed by multiple years of dog barking? I'm more concerned about, and I live in a rural area. I don't like towns. I don't like big cities. I'm more concerned about, construction or anything like that. I think that's more of the issue I have. Howling and shrieking. I consider that part of the wilderness, whatever. How do you not randomly get bitten by dogs? Do you constantly get randomly bitten by dogs? I think that's the big question. Which case, do you prompt the dogs to bite you? That's another question I have to ask. Not having food contaminated by dogs inside grocery stores and restaurants. As I stated before, and it's funny that they want to kind of make this point. Again, I specifically said that I don't agree with people bringing their animals into stores and restaurants. Unless it's a service animal, then that's a difference. But anyway, enjoying a movie/media without dogs randomly forced into it. As I stated before, if there's a time where you're scrolling and there's a freaking dog, you don't have to view it. Fucking skip. It is that easy to deal with. Avoiding to have dog pee and fecal matter spread all over society. How do we avoid this? Well, for one, again, call out people that are the bad actors of the situation. I think that is the biggest thing to do, is call out the people that are causing the problems. Not treat everyone in the community as the problem. There are people that actually do what they're supposed to. They recognize that, hey, I have an animal. I have to pick up after them. And people do that. Not everybody does it, unfortunately, but there are people that actually are responsible with the animals that they have in their homes. So to try to use these as fucking references as to a reason to get rid of an animal is fucking ridiculous. You people are fucking ridiculous. And I'm getting to that point where it's like, look, at first I was a little bit cordial. I was attempting to be cordial. But now let's be honest here. You individuals are out of your fucking minds. But we continue because it only gets better. It only gets so much better. And no, dogs in duty has a very slim success rate. Bullshit. Absolute fucking bullshit. Now, to be more, let's say, to be honest with ourselves, the success rate for service dog training varies. But a common estimate would be around, let's say, 35 to 50%, meaning that at least half of the dogs initially enrolled in training may not successfully complete the program and become service animals. Some organizations report success rates at high as 80% or more. Factors like temperament, breed, individual training, progress can influence a dog's success in service dog training. And it goes to show today, by the way, that in a variety of situations, in terms of, service dogs, using them for medical purposes, so to speak, using them for the police, military, so on and so on, they are still being used today for a variety of different purposes. So in a sense, they still have a purpose in society. So to claim that it's slim is complete and utter bullshit. But continuing, this is why they stopped using dogs in war. No, they haven't. They have not. Because the dogs couldn't tell the difference between an enemy from their own. Again, bullshit, considering how they keep using them. And police dogs attack innocent people randomly too. I would love for them, if that's the case, again, there are those instances. But overall, I would like to see, I would like to see video of this actually happening. Of a police dog, actually attacking an innocent person or attacking a criminal. Show me the evidence of this has happened. Show me reports. Take screenshots. Considering that, again, I asked you promptly in a previous video to show me any evidence of me doing something that you said I was doing. I doubt you're going to do that. But anyway, continuing. And police dogs usually don't successfully sniff out anything. That is an utter lie. Dogs are not so glorified in the age of technology. It's just barbarianism. Okay. So, as I've stated, and as I've already promptly, shown, dogs still have their uses in the community. And in terms of, again, the situations where a situation happens, we need to look at it by case basis, not lumping everyone together, like some of these people want to try to do. This, in a sense, is not realistic, it's not ethical, and overall, it is mentally fucking disturbed. Now, overall, we have talked about a few things in this video. Now, one last thing I wanted to tack on, because again, this has been the focus of discussion already, is the fact that, the first comment was the person was claiming that they were a realist and not a radical. So, just so we can get this out of the way, just nip it at the bud, what does it mean to be a radical? Being a radical generally means advocating for or embracing extreme or fundamental changes in politics, social, or economic systems. It can also refer to someone who has radical views, meaning they hold unconventional or dissenting beliefs. In a more general sense, radical can describe something that is, thoroughgoing, essential, or even slang for cool. That part is irrelevant, but overall, it was in what I was saying. But overall, let's focus on the first part. Again, being radical generally means advocating for or embracing extreme or fundamental changes in a political, social, or economic system. Again, repeating, it can also refer to someone who has radical views, meaning they hold unconventional or dissenting beliefs. So, in a sense, I think that thoroughly describes some of the behaviors that we've been discussing with these particular individuals. These individuals, these radicals, often seek to dismantle existing structures and replace them with their own, with new ones, often advocating for drastic reforms. These individuals believe in overthrowing a status quo and establishing a more just or equitable society. This type of belief, this type of behavior is not realistic. Some of the things that they suggest is not real. Some of the things that they are trying to implement, even when asked, like, how would it be implemented, is not real. These people, these individuals on the side of the dog-free community are nothing but radicals. Their beliefs are skewed based on emotion, and in terms of implementing their beliefs, it is done in a destructive way. But ultimately, that's their issue to deal with. And it's for them to, maybe, if they want to be a realist, then you know what? Actually do the things that realists are described as. Which ultimately is to accept the world and situations as they are. Focus on practical solutions and, again, avoid unrealistic hopes and expectations. But that's up to them to decide if they want to do that or not. Anyway, for now, thank you guys so much for watching. Truly appreciate it. If you guys can, please leave a like, comment, share, subscribe, all the good stuff. If you guys want to follow us on social media, it's all in the description down below, as well as check out our daily content and weekly podcast. With that being said, this is Rob, Novakast signing off. Have a good one. Take care. And I will see you guys next video. Ta-ta.